Welcome to episode 122, Spotlight System Monitoring, focusing on Control SI-4. Security begins with awareness, detecting abnormal behavior before it becomes damage. System monitoring transforms invisible events into actionable insight, allowing defenders to see warning signs rather than aftermath. Every successful intrusion produces detectable traces if the right sensors exist and the right people see them in time. The challenge is not collecting data, but understanding it, translating noise into narrative. Monitoring is the organization's nervous system, sensing change, coordinating reflexes, and enabling response that prevents small anomalies from escalating into full-blown incidents. Building from that premise, effective monitoring starts by choosing the right signals mapped directly to relevant threats. Each monitored event should trace back to a known risk scenario or adversary technique. Collecting indiscriminately creates data overload. Targeted selection creates meaning. For instance, monitoring failed administrative logins connects to brute force attacks, while registry key changes align with persistence tactics. Mapping signals to threats ensures that every alert supports a defensive purpose. Good monitoring is not about seeing everything. It is about seeing the right things in time to matter. Purpose gives data its value. From there, defenders must blend endpoint, network, and identity telemetry to create a full picture of system activity. Endpoint telemetry captures what happens on devices, process starts, file changes, or configuration edits. Network telemetry observes flows between systems, showing where communication deviates from normal patterns. Identity telemetry reveals who acted, from where, and with what privilege. For example, correlating an endpoint's new process with an identity login from an unusual location reveals suspicious linkage. Each layer fills a gap the others cannot. Combined, they transform isolated fragments into coherent stories of behavior across infrastructure. Correlation thrives on reliable context. Events mean little in isolation, but gain power when linked to environment, asset criticality, or known relationships. A failed login on a test server differs from the same event on a production database. Contextual enrichment adds attributes such as system owner, data sensitivity, or network segment, helping analysts prioritize. Modern security platforms automate this enrichment through asset inventories and tagging. For example, correlating an alert with its business function reveals potential impact instantly. Reliable context prevents both overreaction and complacency, turning raw alerts into grounded assessments rooted in mission relevance. Anomaly baselines and threshold tuning help separate the expected from the exceptional. Baselines describe what normal activity looks like in terms of frequency, timing, and volume. Thresholds mark the point where deviation signals possible trouble. For example, 100 login attempts per hour may be normal for an email server, but suspicious for an administrative console. These parameters evolve as systems and usage change. Periodic tuning prevents alert fatigue while retaining sensitivity. Monitoring is not static, it learns. Well-calibrated thresholds keep teams responsive without drowning in predictable noise. Precision lies between blindness and overwhelm. Detection rules and analytics must be tested regularly against real scenarios. Without testing, coverage becomes theoretical. Red teams, simulated attacks, or recorded replay data help confirm that detections trigger as intended. For instance, simulating credential dumping should yield immediate alerts in endpoint telemetry. If it does not, logic or data gaps exist. Testing validates that the monitoring system actually sees what it claims to watch. It also builds analyst confidence, proving that signals lead to action, not ambiguity. In a living security program, detection engineering is never finished. It improves through rehearsal and feedback. Alert routing must assign clear ownership so that every signal finds a responsible responder. Unassigned alerts drift and die. Routing logic should consider severity, scope, and expertise, ensuring that the right teams see relevant events first. For example, network anomalies may route to infrastructure engineers, while authentication failures reach the identity team. Documenting these paths removes hesitation when time matters most. Monitoring succeeds only when someone feels accountable for each alert's resolution. Ownership converts technical data into operational momentum, closing the loop between observation and reaction. After routing, ticket handoffs and feedback loops sustain continuous improvement. Each alert should create a case in a tracking system, moving from triage to investigation to closure. Analysts document findings and mark false positives, feeding results back to tuning teams. For instance, if repeated benign alerts surface from one system, thresholds adjust or logic refines. Feedback loops transform monitoring from repetitive workload into adaptive learning. Over time, this cycle trims noise, enhances accuracy, and accelerates response. Tickets record history, while feedback ensures tomorrow's monitoring is smarter than today's. Suppressing noise without hiding risk is an art that demands balance. Overzealous suppression blinds defenders. Too little drowns them. Analysts should suppress only repetitive, well-understood patterns and retain periodic sampling to confirm they remain safe. For example, routine patch reroutes may flood logs but require no investigation. Filtering them maintains focus. However, suppression lists need review to avoid missing new threats that mimic old behaviors. The goal is not silence, but clarity. Every filtered event should earn its absence through demonstrated harmlessness. Transparency in suppression preserves confidence that nothing vital disappears unnoticed. Capturing artifacts for later evidence transforms monitoring from transient alerting into long-term forensics. When an event triggers, associated data, such as logs, packet captures, or endpoint snapshots, should be stored securely for analysis. For example, preserving the 5 minutes of network traffic preceding a suspected intrusion can reveal initial access vectors. Evidence retention enables deep investigation, compliance reporting, and lessons learned. Without it, context evaporates. Artifacts turn fleeting observation into durable intelligence, allowing post-incident understanding to drive prevention rather than regret. Monitoring that forgets cannot teach. Monitoring that records can evolve. Provider logs from external services must also be integrated and gaps addressed. Cloud platforms, SaaS tools, and managed services generate their own telemetry, often crucial for detecting misuse or configuration drift. Integrating these feeds ensures visibility across shared responsibility boundaries. For instance, ingesting cloud audit logs alongside internal firewall events exposes cross-environment anomalies. When providers cannot supply necessary data, compensating controls, such as API monitoring or third-party analytics, fill the void. Ignoring provider telemetry leaves blind zones exactly where modern operations live. Integration extends the perimeter of awareness to match the perimeter of dependency. Monitoring effectiveness ultimately depends on human readiness, so teams must drill on paging and escalation paths. Synthetic alerts and timed exercises confirm that responders receive, acknowledge, and act within target windows. Drills test communication clarity as much as technology reliability. For example, simulating a critical database compromise alert validates that paging sequences, escalation thresholds, and leadership notifications flow correctly. Practicing escalation under calm conditions ensures composure under stress. When a real incident occurs, every person knows their role and every channel functions as rehearsed. Practice converts monitoring from theory into reflex. Metrics make monitoring measurable through indicators like mean dwell time and true positive rate. Dwell time measures how long attackers remain undetected. Reducing it signals progress. True positive rate shows alert quality. Too low means wasted effort. Too high without action means capacity risk. Tracking both highlights balance between detection reach and response precision. For instance, cutting average dwell time from weeks to days proves improvement. Metrics translate awareness into accountability, turning monitoring from background activity into performance discipline. Numbers validate that visibility leads to protection, not merely observation. In conclusion, Control SI-4 ensures that monitoring triggers action rather than accumulation. Effective visibility is purposeful, correlated, and owned from start to finish. It collects the right data, interprets it with context, and drives response through tested processes. Monitoring's true measure is not how many logs are stored, but how quickly meaningful alerts produce meaningful defense. When systems watch intelligently and teams respond instinctively, abnormal never becomes catastrophic. In that state, security transforms from reaction to anticipation, a living posture of awareness that protects the mission before damage occurs. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.